This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome everyone to another edition of the IT feature update. We will get it kicked off here with Deanna so she can give us an update on how the migrations are going. Deanna?
Thanks, Michelle, and good morning, everybody. Just a quick update from us here at Blue. The Rally migration and on-site training was last week, thanks to the BBB for their hard work and hospitality. Lexington, Kentucky is migrating today. Little Rock, Worcester, and Memphis are all in their pre-migration stages, and we are getting ready to kick off Abilene, Baton Rouge, and London, Ontario for July. As always, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I do have to jump off this call for a post-migration meeting. So if anything comes up or anyone has anything they'd like to share or ask of IB, please let us know at support@interactiveblue.com.
Thanks, Deanna. Any questions for Deanna before she hops off? All right. Thanks, Deanna. Have a
Thanks,
great
Michelle.
weekend.
You
And then
too.
thank you. We will move on to our next feature. Chris, are you ready to talk about the little message we have set up and ready to go in case we need
Absolutely.
it?
Good morning, everybody from St. Louis. We've got a number of things we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about some, and some I'm going to, members of the tech team are going to describe for us, which is probably more helpful anyway. So the first thing we want to talk about, an enhancement, is the case where we have any sort of service interruption or outage on bbb.org. The tech team has now set up a banner message in Adobe Target that can be immediately turned on and off. Michelle's got it pulled up here for you. You can see in the red bar, it gives the user of our website the message, we're performing scheduled maintenance, which may temporarily impact the functionality of certain features on the site. Thank you. It's certainly more attractive than what we've had in the past, and it is providing a better level of customer service to be transparent and tell the user what's going on. Joe or Michelle, anything else you want to say about this change?
You covered it. So the Adobe Target tool is our A/B testing tool, and it can do some really neat things. And one of them is putting up a message like this at the spur of the moment, where it would not require any development work because all of that has already been done, and we can simply go into the tool and turn it on and off, and it's pretty much immediate. So this will be a nice thing to have in our back pocket. Of course, we hope we never have to use it. But it's nice to have in those situations where we do need to put a message out on bbb.org.
Yeah, I think a couple of things even to add, Chris. So we will actually do this monthly. So every Thursday in the middle of the night, we do have a maintenance window. So we'll start testing it out by using it that way, just so that our users know that a scheduled maintenance window is coming up. We don't expect it to really impact anybody, but it is a nice thing. A great example of what Michelle just indicated, when we had the outage recently for complaints, right? We had to go in and hard code a message, or even when we had the outage on the business profile. So this will give us the ability to do that on the fly, which is much more efficient. So,
Any questions from anybody on the demo about this feature? Excellent. We'll move on to the next one then, Michelle. So the next one is an enhancement which allows consumers to verify their customer reviews that they've submitted via text, SMS message, or email. The reason for this enhancement was we are anticipating a higher percentage of verified reviews since the verification via text is an immediate process, and we won't be asking the person who has filed the review to get back in their email and click on a link in the email that we've sent them. So the goal is to be able to publish more verified reviews that have been verified by the consumer. This texting feature will allow us to do that, and hopefully make it work more quickly than it did when the person who was posting the review had to log into their email and click on a link. Michelle, anything about this form that you want to explain?
I just wanted to show, sorry, I'm getting some sort of feedback. Could everyone put their phone on mute? That would be helpful. Thank you. Hopefully that's better. So I just wanted to show a little bit of what the process looks like to the user. So this is our leave a review form, and you'll see at the bottom they now have the option to confirm via email or text messaging. If they select text messaging, the next screen they get is this screen right here. They will then put in the code that is sent to their phone. And that's how they would verify it. And then I can also show a screenshot of what that looks like on their phone. This is from the testing that I have done I'm sure most of you have done some sort of SMS verification. So this is what it would look like on their phone, and they would just enter this code in. And once they enter the code in, then they get a thank you screen that tells them that their review has been verified and thank you. So that has been put in place. The email verification changed slightly. It was that the vendors used to send the email verification. We are now sending the email verification. This is also part of our overall re-architecture of customer reviews that we will talk about in a few minutes. Just to give you an idea of what that email verification looks like, because it likely looks a little bit different than what it looks like from when the vendors are sending it. This is what the email looks like. And when they click this link, the user is sent to a thank you page that confirms that their verification was received. So we're pretty excited about this enhancement. We do think it will be a nice feature for consumers to easily verify their review.
So Michelle, just to oh, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead with your piece, and I just want to make sure nobody misses out on Lori's question that came in the chat.
Yep. Yeah, so a couple of things, just because we have a relatively large audience, just to make sure that the group understands what is happening today and then what is happening in the future. So today, Michelle, right, they only had the ability to verify when they completed a review via email, and a user had to go into their email account to select that verification before we published a review. So two things happened. We brought that in-house to have better management over that, and we updated that email feature. Then we also added the ability to confirm or verify customer reviews via SMS and texting. So that was the additional enhancement feature. So I just wanted to make sure the audience kind of understood that that's from a consumer perspective when a consumer is completing the reviews. Michelle then and Chris, Holly did have, or excuse me, Lori had the message about businesses and their ability to respond. This, I believe, is only the consumer-facing piece of it.
That piece has not changed at all. So the business, how they will respond is still as it is today.
And then when is this feature live now, Michelle, or is it being pushed in the next one?
It'll be pushed very soon. We needed to complete our work prior to the vendors turning off their email functionality. So as soon as we can get this out the door, then the vendors will go in and turn off their email functionality, so the consumer is not receiving two notifications via email if the user chooses to confirm by email.
Okay.
So we do expect this to be live within the next week.
Okay, and then there's a question, Kara. They choose between text or email. It's one or the other, and then they get it in that screen that Michelle is showing right now.
Correct.
I'm hoping that's answered everybody's questions in the chat. So,
Michelle, this is Rich. Just one quick question for you. It seems to be an industry best practice to include a confirming statement that the consumer consents to receiving a text. Would we be able to add a quick statement, like 1 or 2 sentences, to this form?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and send that language over and we'll get it added.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks. This is Angela. So Rich and I just actually sent it over to Joe earlier today.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
and what's Joe gonna do with it, Angela? I'm just gonna read it.
He'll forward it to me.
Oh, no, I'll forward it to Michelle.
You're fine. We'll get that taken care of. So there's another question about, will we be able to still send the email in case the consumer does not verify it the first time? Will emails be resent if the review is not verified?
We can absolutely resend the email. We should, I'll capture that and put it in an upcoming sprint. So I assume that that is functionality that you have today in your vendor tool. Is that correct?
Currently in Blue, we have it set up to resend 3 days after the review is not verified. So Alex, thank you, has confirmed what's occurring today.
Got it.
Any other questions about the text verification addition that we've just heard about? Excellent. Shall we move on to the search card piece, Michelle, in terms of service area?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So both the custom text and the unstructured text, such as instances where we talk about the service area that a business is doing business in, whether that be as broad as a company that does business nationwide, as specific as a business that only does business in one particular neighborhood in St. Louis. Either way, and in the structured text, such as the city, the state, and the postal codes will display on search results cards and on business profiles with this enhancement. Michelle, you're showing, which piece are you showing now here?
Right here, you see the serving area displayed on the business profile.
Very good. So this is how it will look on the business profile, and then on the other version on the search results. When you click on that, it shows in that way. A cautious reminder, the custom text, unstructured text cannot be integrated with the search functionality that we currently have because it's not structured data that can be seen. So this means essentially the service area data that you're entering, whether it be displayed on the directory as is before you or on the business profile as was displayed previously, is doing nothing other than displaying that information to a user on bbb.org. Michelle, that just got way more technical above my literacy level. So I tried to put it in simple terms. Do you want to try to explain it from a more tech perspective for those in the audience?
I think you did a great job, Chris. So when we say unstructured custom text, we mean when a business would like to put in serving the East Village, for example, they still have the ability to do that, and that unstructured text will display prior to any structured text. So if they also have structured text, which we consider zip codes, city, state, province, state, county, state, that would be structured text. And that structured text, because it is readable by our Solar search engine, we can incorporate that data into the search functionality. We cannot incorporate the East Village into the search functionality because that's unstructured text. It's just a free form text that we can only display on the website.
So then as advice to local BBBs, if you're wanting to enter information that can be read by Solar and seen by Solar, give local BBBs advice on how that information should be entered.
For the structured text,
Yes.
it depends on your area. There are areas in North America that are very county driven versus city driven. So for those areas, we would recommend using the counties for your structured data. In other areas, if you are more zip code based, for example, Manhattan, you might have businesses that really only want to serve a certain neighborhood or a certain zip code, and so then you would put in that zip code in the serving area data. So then the consumer can see that their particular zip code is serviced by that provider.
Excellent.
Michelle, this is Joe. Is also one of the reasons that this has come up is just to have the ability to summarize a serving area as unstructured text in this, because sometimes what we were seeing were 20 or 30 zip codes, which isn't very appealing to see to an end user or to a business when they want to just summarize what their service area is. So was that the gist behind this, to be able to kind of clean it up and have it look more general in the service area on structured text, at least?
That, and also we had BBBs who really wanted to display the unstructured, more freeform neighborhood area text in addition to their structured text.
Okay.
And you will now have that flexibility to choose that in your vendor tool. That particular piece will be built out within the next couple weeks, but you will have the opportunity to say, we only want to display the unstructured freeform text, or we want to display both, or we only want to display the structured area text. So how it was working previously was that if there was structured area text and unstructured area text, only the structured area would
Okay.
display. So we're building in that flexibility so the BBBs can decide what's best for them.
Does that make sense to everybody? Lori has a question, and Lori, I'm not sure if it's in regards to. We just answered Lori's question, so never mind.
Love when that happens. Any other questions about service area?
Do we know, is the field the same field that's always existed? Because there's always been even before the structured one, a specific custom text field for service area. Is this going to pull from that same field, or is it a new field in the vendors?
I believe it's the same field, but please confirm that with your vendor. I'm not sure if sorry, I don't know who's talking. Are you Blue
Blue.
or Herdman? Blue. Okay, I'm not sure if we have anyone on the call with Blue right now since they had to hop to another migration call, but I believe it is the same field, but just confirm with them.
Excellent. All right, now let's get down to the more interesting piece and let's see some enhancements from the actual IABBB tech team who are going to explain some things. And we'll start with Kevin, who's got some things to tell us about the complaint form. Kevin?
Good morning. My name's Kevin. I'm one of the developers with the IT team. Thanks for the introduction there. This is just a very simple graphic that just explains the re-architecture that we're going through with both the reviews and the file complaint system. This one is more obviously geared towards the file complaint system. All this is excuse me, all this is essentially saying is a three-step process so that we can have some redundancy when it comes to the file complaint form to make sure that that data is always safe. So the first step, as you can see there, is that the end user, the consumer, will complete the complaint form. And then that form is then sent to our database and saved. And the code is written in such a way that even if there's some sort of submission issue with the vendor side of it or on the way while that's processing, it's still going to be saved to the database. So we essentially will always have at least that form data to rely upon if we need to access it. And then also as a part of that process, if there's any attachments or documents or images that are attached to that complaint, those are going to be uploaded to Amazon to our S3 bucket, just a storage location for documents and such. And then the last part of that is just if we're going to do some things in the future, but essentially right now, if we need to access that file complaint data or the attachments or anything to do with that complaint, those will be accessed via a new API that we're setting up. That's just going to pull that data from the database. So pretty simple three-step process, but I guess that obviously what that means for the BBBs primarily is that the data that anybody enters for a complaint form will always be saved in the event that we need to be able to access that at a later time. And of course, if everybody has any questions, I can do my best to answer those.
Right, for local BBBs, thank you, Kevin, very much, by the way, for explaining it so well. And for local BBBs, just remember the last piece that he said. So we're talking about one of our core services. We're talking about a product that we offer uniquely in the marketplace. And there's now been an enhancement made to it so that we don't lose the data. And they've created a system the tech team has to protect that data for us. So Kevin and the rest of the team, thank you for that. Any questions for Kevin, anyone?
This was a result, what I was just going to add, Chris, this was a result of the March outage, right, where we didn't have in our process to save the complaint data, and we were just pushing it directly into either eBinder or Blue. So this is a result of that, guys. So if you recall those discussions, our quest to remediate this was to put this into place. So just the reminder on why we did this.
Excellent, excellent solution. All right, next up is Joshua, who is going to talk about how the customer review form has been re-architected. Joshua, you ready to go?
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Awesome.
Sweet. Okay. Yeah. I don't have a fancy little diagram like Kevin had, unfortunately, but it's pretty simple, the things that have changed so far. So it's in addition to everything that you guys have seen with how reviews are looking right now. Essentially what we did is we moved everything in-house, and so instead of the reviews getting filled out and then sent to either IB or Herdman for the verification and everything, we're keeping those reviews in-house in our own database, and then handling the verification as well on our side. And then so essentially we have all that information locally. So if anything happens, we can always recover them. And so there's never, we don't have to deal with pulling reviews from the vendors and everything like that. And so yeah, that's pretty much the bulk of it. So yeah.
Awesome. And very impactful, very, very, very impactful, Joshua, for local BBBs, because once again, it's a protective mechanism that protects that data that we're collecting, which is important for our relevance in the marketplace. Any questions for Joshua? Marvelous. With that, we will turn to our designer user experience extraordinaire, Alyssa, who's going to talk about some work that she's been working on a couple of different things. Alyssa, you ready to go?
I am, but it would be helpful if I unmuted myself first.
There you go. We can hear you now. Dazzle us.
Fantastic. So I'm very excited to show this to you all. Right now, what you're seeing on your screen is not going to look like anything new because I like to show the before and after. So what I'm demoing here is we completely redesigned our filters for the search functionality. It probably doesn't sound like a big thing, but it's a pretty massive update. Our developer who built it, Tevin, put in a lot of hours on this, and I'm excited to show you the results. First, I'm going to go over some of the problems we were trying to solve and what it, and why we were changing it. So, first of all, in desktop view, you can see this is what our filters look like right now on a wide screen. Honestly, the majority of our users don't ever really see this left-hand filter because in order to fit it in, you have to have a pretty, you can see I have a pretty large screen size here. So that was one of the issues. And just to show you, so one of the issues we had was for the developers, they're having to maintain 4 different versions of the filters. So just to show that real quick, we have the left-hand filter. Then as your screen goes down, this is like a smaller desktop size, which is where most of our desktop users would be at. You see it changes to this horizontal with the right-hand rail. Then the tablet size, the right-hand rail goes away. So that's the 3rd version. And then, of course, finally, the mobile version. So that was one of the, we wanted to have one, a truly responsive site is one that changes by the screen size and doesn't need to have all these different versions. The other issues we have were accessibility issues. For example, this white text on the blue background is not accessible to people with contrast vision issues. So we wanted to solve that. And then, just visual wise, this was, I designed this about 5 or 6 years ago, I think. So I just thought it was ready. We really needed to refresh, wanted a more modern look. This is an important area of our site. And at the time it was an improvement, but now, this is a great example of how we're constantly iterating and improving on the site and showing how we can, just redesigning a section can completely change things. So not to leave you in suspense, actually, I am going to leave you in suspense for one more second, just to show. So here's the mobile version. You can see it's pretty cluttered up here. And then this was improved, but there still isn't quite enough room for standardized touch distance, meaning a thumb, for example, is pretty large. So you want to make sure people have enough room to, if they want to click request consultation, they're not accidentally clicking book appointment. So we're partway there now, but we weren't fully there. Okay, now I'm going to take away the suspense. So here's the redesigned version for desktop. So you can see now it's always on the top. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention that's very important is in the horizontal view here, yeah, we can only show 3 different filters. So a big part of the redesign too was being able to show all of them. So what you can see here is now as you reduce the size of your screen, right? They just stack. So we don't have to have all these different screen sizes, and we can always show all of the filters. It's visually, it's much cleaner, it's much more modern, it's much more in line with today's design standard, web standards. And then just to show quickly how it works, so we have 3 different kinds of types of filters, I guess, or filter inputs, may be the best way to say it. So we also redesigned that. They were all checkboxes before, and that wasn't, each one did not necessarily need that functionality. So for example, here for serving my area, that's like a binary yes or no. So it doesn't have a drop down, you just check it. And this is on our staging server, which is a little slow, so bear with me. There we go. So you see the change there. We have this one with categories. So categories, right? You can choose multiple categories. Whoops. Sorry about that. There we go. So you see you can easily choose the multiple checkboxes here. And then for BBB ratings, you can see this one is, you can't choose multiple, so it only allows you to choose one at a time, and you can switch through them. You see also right underneath, you get shown all the filters that you've selected, and you have the option to clear them. Another thing that, and this is in stage, so we're finishing this up and refining it. So there's a few that are still to be added, but we've added animations, which we didn't have before. It's another thing I think we really, it just creates a nicer web experience. So I'm not sure if you can see here, but there's the carrot actually animates up and down instead of just changing the state. These are just nice little things that, add some joy to the experience, I guess is the way to say it. And also, especially in mobile, can be very useful in indicating functionality. So then real quick, I'll switch over. Again, there's the mobile view. And here we have our new mobile view for filters. You can see it's a lot cleaner at the top. Again, more modernized. So now we have this one big button. You can sort or you can filter. So now I talked about the touch space. So the way it is now, you can see we have the serving my area, and the rest, you just press the plus or minus button to view. And the reason why we're doing this is that way you can see there's much more room now in between the selections. And if we had them all expanded, it would be like the world's longest window. So this is a solution that allows us to be accessible in a nice user experience friendly way. I'm just going to pick a couple. Let's see. Just put the rating here. Fly. You can see now that I've selected a filter, this little icon is now colored to indicate that you have filters selected. And if you click back here, you see It opens with the sections that I've selected open, so I can see what I've already previously selected. If I just hit clear all, then it will close them all again. So that is our new filter design. Does anybody have any questions? Or Chris, did you want to add anything?
I just want to say one thing, which is this is a great example of the days of creating a form, throwing it on the web in the BBB world, and just letting it sit there and not making iterative changes and making it function better are over. And this is a great example of it. So, Alyssa, thank you for putting the work in to make this more attractive, which ultimately should lead to more usage. So we're headed in the right direction. Joe, Michelle, anything you want to say about this?
I just had one question, Alyssa, when you were doing the demo back on the mobile version. I just noticed like on the top one, you had a circle to select, and then on the bottom ones, they were squares to select. And I'm just wondering if there's some rationale behind that.
There is, and we're still refining that, but yeah. So it's partially a standards issue, partially an accessibility issue. So for example, with the categories, right, you can select multiple ones. So those are check marks because, right, if you that's how you usually use like a check mark form, check marks auto form, is when you can make multiple selections. The BBB rating, you can only choose one of these at a time. So currently they're radio buttons, which indicates, right? So if I can't click multiple. So that's how, same thing on forms, radio buttons are what you use if you have, you can only select one or the other. So that's the reason why they're different.
Awesome explanation, thanks. It just jumps out and I've got, oh, I wonder what the method behind your madness is.
Yeah.
There's always a reason with Alyssa, that's for sure. So it's those little things that can have a huge impact on user experience. So
well, and
awesome.
and I don't want to take credit for that because this was a suggestion from our developer Kevin, who built this, who is very invested in accessibility, and this is a more accessible, friendly solution that he proposed. So I'd love to take credit for it, but it's all to Tevin.
Well, either way, that's awesome. Thanks, Tevin. That was a great idea. So I love it. Alyssa, I just wanted to also mention that this will be a nice update once we get the new TOB structure implemented. So I'm happy that this will be done prior to that implementation because I think it'll go hand in hand very nicely with that new hierarchy.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Any questions, comments?
Just Michelle on the TOB comment. I'm assuming what that also means when Alyssa demoed that before, you can see this whole laundry list of stuff. It becomes then more user friendly to be able to select multiple or deselect categories.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then on the right rail, we have a related categories component, and so that will be likely turned into the opportunity for the user to drill out or drill in if they need to, rather than what is essentially a duplication of the categories filter now. So, yep.
If there aren't any questions, Michelle, either way, if you wanted to, I have the complaints piece up on my screen as well. If you wanted me to show that, or if you wanted to do that on your screen.
You can show it. Go for it.
Okay.
So.
So again, I have a little before and after, but this one I promise will be a quicker presentation. So this is the complaints page for our business review pages. just to show real quick, because, oh, I wish this was faster. All right, I'm going to actually cancel that out. It's not that, oh, of course. Sorry, guys. All right, so this is what our complaints page currently looks like. Again, this is just a design refresh, just to make things better, look better, more appealing, and easier to use. So here's the change. This is on our staging server right now. So on the live site, this would be their actual logo. It just doesn't load in our staging server. So ignore that. But as you can see, you know, on the rest of our what I was going to show by going to the main business profile page is that on the rest of our pages, we have this blue bar, and the complaints one was the only one that was not matching. So that was one of the updates we wanted to make. Then basically this file a complaint area is now more called out and easier to find. But at the same time, it makes it cleaner to pull that out separately so you can focus on what is the actual complaints reports area. Some minor things like this text previously was below the drop down in the complaints. So moving it up serves more as an introduction to now you're going to read this, and also associates these pieces more closely with what's going on down below, which is what they're actually sorting. And then lastly, we have, we had these separated out, which is something we changed on the main business profile. And when I say these, I mean the accreditation and the BBB rating. So got those combined. So you can see it's just a nice overall cleaner experience, much better user experience, and easier to flow through. And that's it.
Thank you, Alyssa. Anybody have any questions about any of these exciting design changes? Excellent. Michelle, I'll turn it back over to you and Nathan to talk about web traffic.
Sounds good. Nathan, I'm going to pass you control so you can share your screen here. You should have it now.
Sharing now. Hey everyone, good morning. I don't really have a presentation, but we'll show a screen from Search Console, which I think is it's just a really good thing to highlight right now. It shows the results of the Proficient SEO audit, shows the results of actually the action items that came from that audit that IT implemented, and the results are shown right here. I'll kind of get to this in a little bit though, but so Michelle, I'll just let you kind of, if there's anything you want to cover, and then I'll kind of go into a couple of bullet points that I have that will kind of relate to this with a few other things.
It's all you, Nathan.
Okay. So just to kind of start, in general, just a kind of a conversation around just general traffic trends right now. We are seeing what I would consider signals of improvement. We are still seeing declines in traffic when done like year over year, but we know that we're comparing ourselves to an outlier, so there's not a lot of insight from that. But when we look to a period pre-COVID, basically, we are seeing an uptick in performance, in the 2 to 3% per month over this year. So that's a signal that I look at as positive. We also see in the Search Console data just general clicks and impressions. Those kind of performance declines we've seen are improving. So there's a number of things happening, and then there's the work that I'm going to cover here that will hopefully we'll start to see the results of this in a few months. And we're also kind of battling the fact that we did a migration to AWS. That was a huge undertaking. It was amazing that we did it with as little hiccups as we had. But whenever you do that, you're going to take an SEO ding, and we've kind of, I feel like we've recovered from it. We any of the little issues that have popped up, we've fixed. And so now it's kind of like we're on a good foundation. Now we get to kind of see where this is going. And so that kind of leads me into what we're seeing here, which is from the audit, we realized that there was a few things happening. We had a lot of 400 errors, which is basically a 400 errors when you go to a URL and the site tells you it can't be found. And then there's the 500 error, which is basically you see a different message window on our website, but that's it happens for a lot of reasons, but a good example of it would be is if the system thought you were a bot because you were hitting like thousands of pages really quickly, it would block you and then it would give you this message. And that was kind of one of the ways we were dealing with the bot issue. That did create problems though, because that could also block the good bots that we want on the website, and it just other issues. So in this process, I can't get into the details of what actually happened technically, but the proof's in the pudding, and that is specifically a massive reduction in 500 errors, down from basically 17K at its height to 2K right now. And as you can see here, it's flatline, but it's still kind of continuing to decline. The other one that is important is the 500 errors, and you can, oh, that was 400, sorry. Back out of that.
Nathan, can you talk a little bit about what is a 500 error?
So that's kind of what I was, that the 500 error, and there's a lot of reasons for it, but it's essentially we're blocking you for some reason. You're in India and you get a 500 message because we're just like, the website's accessible, that URL is accessible. Let's say you're going literally to bbb.org, but you get a 500 error, because of several reasons, but one of them could be because you're coming out of North Korea, and you're just going to get the 500 error if your IP is located to that. But there's I would have to let IT ops go into all the details of that, but that's kind of the general 500 errors. We're blocking you for some reason. 400 is that page isn't on the web and we're giving you an error message. And Google does not like 400s. They don't like 500s either, but all of these kind of ultimately why it's bad is these are all signals to Google to tell them to not trust us. And the more that we do it, the less they trust us, the less they come and index our site, the longer it takes to get pages indexed, specifically profile pages. So all of this is helpful in that regard. And then the other one, is just looking at these 400 errors, which you can see we had a spike, and then we've seen a nice steady reduction. If I could open this up further, you would see that there has been a good trending downwards of these issues as well. But 400 errors are still happening for internal reasons of, you change a profile to a different location and the system is not yet redirecting that page. It's just now 400. That's still happening, and one of the results of the SEO audit is a master list of pages that we still need to go after 400. So that's a big improvement. The other big thing that was done was through Ted's team, specifically Matt and R&D. They basically found a bunch of bad URLs on our profiles and got them removed, upwards of like 250,000 of them, which is still a small number in terms of our total profile, but it's still, every bad URL we link to is a horrible signal to Google. And especially if we link to broken sites that aren't live, malicious sites are even worse. So all that kind of stuff, that's why this is cleaning up our profiles is so important, because they are the lifeblood of our website, which gets into kind of one of the topics I want to point out really quickly, and that is this gets into business profile quality. There was an update that happened about 3 or 4 months ago that specifically targeted review sites. We got caught up in that. And what it's doing is it's just saying if your business profiles are not of quality, if they don't have good content, if it's not unique, if there isn't a reason beyond what you could find out in a million other places on that page, then we're just going to kind of ignore it. And what we've seen during that time was Angie's taken off because they've adjusted their website for this, and we now are kind of having to do other stuff to improve. And so this 404 is a big one, but a lot of this kind of relies on the business and the local BBB to just make sure their business profiles are quality. But that's also one of the data things that we're trying to improve as well. The other big issue that's occurred, and I just recently saw this in my analysis, which is Google made a big update to essentially the title tag. And what they're doing is they're doing their AI on it, which is they're taking our title tag and they're slicing it and dicing it and putting it in an order they think will be better for the user. I've seen them and they look pretty funky, and you can literally on the graph see the moment that update went live, our traffic took a good, in terms of our SEO rankings, a good 10% drop. And so Sarah and I are looking into, is there anything we can do to mitigate it? It may just be, this is the new normal and we have to accept it, but we are aware of it and we're looking into it as one of the other things that's kind of happened in terms of our organic. And lastly, the thing that's really happened is Angie, during this whole time that we've kind of seen our decline, has done the opposite, and they're really taking a lot of market share in terms of our core TOB searches and stuff. And so this again is an awareness, but to counter what they're doing, they dropped $50 million, in the last 6 months or whatever, and a lot of it was on SEO. We just have to focus on other things and realize that improving traffic is really expensive, especially moving the needle with the kind of traffic we get. We need to focus more on conversion events, improving AB acquisition, retention, the experience, all those type of things that make people want to be part of the membership. And so I'm seeing that a lot in the data right now, and ideally, we still have a lot of initiatives to improve that, but we just have to, understand, the limitations and kind of what we're up against. So with that, I'll kind of open it up for any questions.
Nathan, just clarification. I can't remember the terminology that you used, but it was something around Google and tagging or tracking or something within the last, minute on what they did and what we saw for a decrease in traffic.
So it
Can
was
you describe that to
yeah, it's
this larger audience?
Yeah, when you do a search for, let's say you look for, XYZ plumber in your neighborhood, which is a huge amount of traffic comes to our website, literally business people looking for a business and then clicking on that business profile. What Google's doing in that search result, and you know what it looks like, it's the headline is the title tag. That's the blue linkable text that you click on in the search result. And that is the highlight. That's the thing everyone sees. Maybe they read a little bit of the text below because some of it gets bolded if the keywords match, but it's the title tag. And what they're doing is we might say, Spartan Plumbing, BBB accredited plumber, whatever our current set title tag is. I can't remember off the top of my head. They're breaking it apart, rearranging it, and presenting it to the user because they think they're going to click on it more. But I've seen the results and they're funky. Because at first I just thought it was just an anomaly, but then after reading about it and finding out this is what Google's doing, it's probably kind of like, it's not really seen. It's happening a lot kind of at the long tail, or kind of just not, where we don't really see it individually, but it's happening because you can see it on the graph. Like as soon as they go live with that update, we see a ranking decline. And the ranking declines because people are engaging less with our profile. So it's just one more of the things that we are just watching and then looking into. Okay, is there anything we can do to override that? It's unlikely because when Google does this stuff, it's automatic and you don't really get the ability to override. But
There's
So
a
Audrey has a
question in the, yep.
question. Yeah. Is there anything specific we can do at a local level to help with these trends? Cleaning up the bad URLs is obviously one of importance. Is there anything else they can do?
And it's one of is just focus on really good business profiles. Every AB should focus on. I mean, the consumers are coming and looking at it. They want to see, what the reviews are, what's the complaints, how quickly do they respond to complaints. It's not necessarily a bad thing to have a complaint if you respond well and quickly to it. The consumer's looking at all of that. You want that profile to be engaging because I look at so many business profiles that are accredited businesses that literally the information on there I can find in 10 other places. If that's the case, then why do I want to come to our business profile? At that point, it really just becomes about the seal, the rating, and the reviews. But Google kind of knows this. So if you've got a business that doesn't get complaints, doesn't get reviews, and has no content on their profile, that's kind of a problem. And really what it is it's death by a million cuts. It's like we've got X amount of millions of business profiles. Well, every time we do that, it's just one more little signal to Google saying, hey, this isn't really good content. You don't need to come here. Go look somewhere else. And so improving, that's a biggie. The other then is doing, writing more content around new businesses. So, every month or every quarter, you can write an article, put it on Core CMS, talking about here are our newly accredited businesses. Here's what's cool about them. Again, you look at it, all of that takes time. And so you really have to juggle this, like, what's the benefit of, and this is what I mentioned about SEO traffic. Angie spent 50 million and has so many people doing this activity. But for us, is it how much do you get from writing this article and then driving the traffic to it? So I would say if you have the resources to do it, absolutely, every little bit helps. The other piece of it is going out to the businesses and making sure they're linking to their profiles, not just the seal. The seal's great, but the seal doesn't get followed. If they literally have a page and just talks about their BBB accreditation and links to their profile with a followed link, that's another really biggie that, if we got every business to do that for us, that's a huge, boost, but it has to be, natural, and it has to look organic. So hopefully that helps.
Thanks, Nathan. That was a great answer. Any other questions? We just have a couple more features or items to talk about. I know we're running close to time here. All right. I'm not seeing any more questions. So Elliot, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the single local status. If you could give us a quick update on that.
Yeah,
That'd be
super
great.
quick. I know we're at time. I just want to mention we are still prioritizing the long-term solutions that we had outlined before. It's still a huge effort to get us into the ideal state for single local. We know there's still some issues that are happening in the short term and tickets are being submitted. We're taking a step back, looking at all of the issues this week and next week. I've got a meeting with Holly Salmons to analyze it and kind of dig a little bit deeper and get a better picture of what's happening so we can address some of these short-term issues that we're seeing. In a nutshell, 30 seconds.
Thanks, Elliot. And Joe, I know you have one last thing you wanted to mention.
Oh, yeah. The last thing is that we thought it might be beneficial to send a very simple, easy, after the fact survey. So hopefully survey's not a dirty word, but it'll be very simple. It will be one statement. And it will be an emoji, so 5 of them. We just want to make sure that we're providing good information, and we'll start very simple with you just selecting an emoji on the experience that you have with our demos. So look for that coming out from Brandon, and then we will share those results going forward to make sure that we have hopefully a bunch of happy emojis and not a bunch of sad emojis.
All right, thanks, Joe. Any other questions before we end the call? Okay, well, enjoy your weekend. We will get the recording posted later today. Thanks, everyone.